Welcome to The Explainer. Today, we're doing something really cool. We aren't just going to be looking at a bunch of isolated, boring data points. Nope. We are actually opening up a time capsule to August 2026. We're going to dive right in and dissect these massive intersecting shifts that are happening across technology, our physical environment, global politics, and everyday human culture. I know it sounds like a lot to cover, right? But by visualizing it all together, the chaotic pieces of tomorrow's puzzle are going to start forming a really clear picture for us.
So set the stage with me here. Look at this. This is the actual front page of the New York Times from Sunday, August 23rd, 2026. Just glancing at these headlines, you immediately get a sense of the sheer gravity of this specific moment in time. We're seeing trade wars, unprecedented tech integration, severe climate milestones, and deep political realignments, literally all colliding on a single Sunday morning. This serves as the perfect map to anchor us in the massive global shifts we are about to break down. To make sense of all this information, I've structured our explainer around four overarching themes. First up, the new AI reality. Second, a rapidly changing climate. Third, global political friction. And finally, culture and resilience. Let's get right into it.
All right, Section 1, the new AI reality, navigating the digital boom.
So by 2026, the integration of artificial intelligence, it is no longer theoretical. It is an inescapable and highly complicated part of our daily infrastructure. Now, big tech's grand vision has been promising this sort of utopia of personalized learning and seamless corporate integration. Things like using automated chatbots to grade papers or teach complex subjects. But as you might guess, the reality on the ground is much messier. The internet is increasingly just cluttered with what researchers are actually calling AI slop, literally endless, low-quality, machine-generated junk. And even more concerningly, educators are finding that students who rely on AI are actively losing fundamental grammar and structural skills. So that promised utopia? Yeah, it's clashing pretty hard with cognitive reality. And that brings us to this profound insight from cognitive psychologist Dr. Ronald T. Kellogg. Writing is a technology for thinking. Think about that for a second. This isn't just about kids taking shortcuts on their homework. The experts are sounding the alarm that when we offload writing to a chatbot, we're actually forfeiting our own critical thinking and working memory skills. We use writing to test our logic, right? To structure our thoughts. When the machine does the writing for us, the human brain totally misses out on that vital cognitive workout. $2 trillion. That is the staggering potential valuation being discussed for just one major AI company, Anthropic, upon going public. To put that into perspective, the financial stakes driving this technological boom are just astronomical. This isn't just about fun new software. It's an absolute arms race for digital infrastructure and computational dominance. And when $2 trillion are on the line, the rollout of these technologies is not going to slow down for anything or anyone. But as overwhelming as this digital world is, we do have to pull our attention back to the physical world. Which brings us to Section 2, a rapidly changing climate, Earth's physical shifts. Take a look out west. In the Sierra National Forest, researchers are examining what is basically a permanent ecological shift. Bigger, hotter fires are entirely erasing these majestic, centuries-old pine forests. And here's the really scary part. Because the climate has warmed so drastically, those pines aren't growing back. Instead, they're being replaced by these spiky, drought-resistant shrubs. So we aren't just losing a few trees here. Entire ecosystems are fundamentally transforming into something completely unrecognizable. And this environmental transformation is putting immense pressure on our resources. The Colorado River system, which sustains literally millions of people, is in a full-blown crisis. The lower basin states are facing an unprecedented 20% cut to their water supply. And because the states just couldn't agree on how to share the pain, the federal government actually had to step in and bypass them entirely to enforce these cuts. This means the widespread following of American farmland, all while upper basin states are digging in their heels and refusing voluntary reductions. It's a localized climate crisis evolving directly into a massive legal and economic battle. Then there's the health side of this. Consider the AHF virus, Argentine hemorrhagic fever. Back in the 1950s, it was largely isolated to rural Argentina. But as climate change alters habitats and deforestation pushes agriculture deeper into wildlife territories, the rodents that carry this deadly virus are migrating. Look at this rapid acceleration. From just a few cruise ship workers in 2024 to the World Health Organization estimating over 16,000 deaths by early 2026. Ecological disruption is directly fueling the geographic spread of new infectious diseases. And when you combine trillion-dollar tech disruptions with these severe resource and climate crises, well, you inevitably destabilize global networks. That takes us to Section 3, Global Political Friction, Systems Under Pressure. So how are these pressures playing out globally? Well, an escalating trade war between the US and Canada is actually weaponizing everyday industries. The US has targeted Canadian softwood lumber and paper, while crucially keeping vital energy resources like oil, gas, and electricity completely exempt. Canada, in turn, has retaliated fiercely. They're aiming at American steel, dairy, apples, and electronics, and they're even threatening US services and publishing. Everyday industries are getting caught right in the crossfire of geopolitical disputes, forcing very specific sectors of the economy to just absorb all the economic pain. Meanwhile, over in Italy, Prime Minister Giorgia Meloni has navigated a party with post-fascist roots right into the mainstream. She's positioned herself as a highly polarizing yet undeniably powerful force in European politics. Whether she's aligning with European financial norms or sparring over cultural identities, her political trajectory is a perfect example of how modern leaders are successfully consolidating power by navigating and, honestly, often amplifying these deep societal pressures. Now let's talk about what this means for the everyday consumer. $360. That is the cost of a basic grounds pass for the US Open tennis tournament in our 2026 snapshot. And that's not for a premium seat. That's literally just to get on the grounds. As corporate suites expand and private equity just dominates live events, everyday fans are being aggressively priced out of cultural experiences. It's a microexample of a much larger macro trend, the increasing financial squeeze on the average person. Which leads us to this number, $160 billion. That is the annual amount Americans are currently spending through buy now, pay later loans. What is absolutely crucial to understand here is that these loans aren't just being used for luxury electronics or fun vacations anymore. Citizens are increasingly using these short-term, delayed payment loans just to afford basic, everyday necessities like rent, electricity bills, and groceries. It perfectly illustrates an economy where working-class consumers are stretched to their absolute limits just to survive the day-to-day. Now, with all of this weight, the AI disruptions, the climate shifts, the economic struggles, it would be so easy to feel entirely overwhelmed. But you know what? Humans are incredibly resilient. And that brings us to our final section, culture and resilience, how humanity adapts. One of the most fascinating cultural trends of 2026 is the absolute explosion of historical media. It's being spearheaded by people like Tom Holland and Dominic Sandbrook, who host the massively successful podcast The Rest is History. We're talking tens of millions of downloads here. So why this sudden obsession with the past? Well, because when the present feels as chaotic and unprecedented as what we've just looked at, there is a deep, collective, cultural hunger to immerse ourselves in history. It provides comfort, it provides context, and it reminds us that humanity has navigated and survived some incredibly tumultuous periods of change before. You also see this deep reverence for history in the 900-year-old Bayeux tapestry. It's an incredibly fragile artifact depicting the 1066 Norman invasion. Just to move this masterpiece across the English Channel required an almost unbelievable combination of political willpower, cutting-edge vibration engineering, and complex diplomacy between France and Britain. It goes to show that even amidst modern geopolitical squabbles, we absolutely still place an immense unifying value on preserving our shared human heritage. But physical resilience is just as vital as looking to the past. Take Caitlin Simmers, the youngest women's world surfing champion, who finds this fluid, artistic escape in the water. In stark contrast to the heavy cognitive load of AI or the rigid, stressful structures of global politics, surfing represents a space of no conscious thought, just a pure, rhythmic connection to the natural world. It is a vital reminder that despite our rapidly changing climate and all this digital overload, we humans still possess a profound capacity to find joy, art, and harmony within the physical world. So, we've covered a lot of ground today. We've looked at the relentless march of AI, the physical transformation of our planet, the friction in our global systems, and the ways we culturally adapt and cope. This snapshot of August 2026 proves that these macro trends, they aren't happening in isolation. They are deeply, deeply intertwined. So as we look at this map of our near future, I want to leave you with this question. How are you preparing for the intersecting digital, environmental, and political realities of tomorrow? Thank you so much for learning with me today, and keep exploring.